things got heated with a boy. This episode, you guys, came through as usual. I'm not going to be a broken record this time, but I will say there were so many things that we learned. While it wasn't my favorite of the season so far, it was still superb, right? In comparison to half of the things that are on TV right now. But enough about that. Let's get right into Interview with the Vampire, episode 4. I want you more than anything in this world. And honey, Armand did and does. But what are Armand's motivations? That's what I want you guys to be thinking about as we recap and review episode 4. So episode opens up and Claudia is on stage, honey, and is so adorable. We get to see her from her first performance to her 500th, and we see the decline. When we see Miss Claudia come out, honey, singing her song about the closed windows and the rainbows and freedom and jumping and doing all the things, right? She was giving us life. With the green eyeshadow, with the green dress, with the little dance number, you know, we were feeling the vibes. But by the 500th show, Claudia tired. Okay, she's sick of being a little girl. We know that. She said it's humiliating. The people in the audience, the mortals, laughing and giggling, like she's over it completely, honey. And Santiago is infuriated and annoyed by the song choice. Okay, is it jealousy? Y'all let me know, because in this episode, we get to see so much more of Santiago, and I believe what his true motivations are. So again, Claudia, we go back to present day, and Daniel is like, how did Claudia handle all that? And so Armand and Louis talk over each other, and basically Louis is like, you know, she has her issues with it, and Armand says, you know, she's dealing with it. I believe that even the performance in the play was foreshadowing for not only what Claudia feels, but what her fate is going to result in, right? I think, you know, being a bird in a cage and jumping out, you know, seemingly to freedom, but that freedom ends in her demise. Just, you know, go with me here. And disclaimer, I have not read these books in 100 years. So my review and recap is strictly based on the information that we are being given as we are watching these episodes. Okay. So again, Santiago hates the song Claudia is singing, and he's complaining about it, all the while getting topped off, okay, by this young woman, by his girlfriend that apparently he switches between her and another later in the coven. It's a mess. So again, baby Claudia is tired, and she makes an appeal to Armand and basically is like, I would rather work behind stage. Okay, I'd rather be feeding the bodies to the rats. I'd rather be sweeping up. She's actually said, I'd rather be licking the blood off the stage, okay, than being on stage at this point. Okay, doing this little number. And baby Armand reads her down. Armand is not pulling any punches. As kind and as sweet and as loving as he is to Louis, it's the complete antithesis with Claudia. Claudia can get all the business. Like, he does not care. And so finally, Santi, which I'm going to nickname him Santi. Santiago is Santi. Okay. So if you hear that through the review, don't get mad, sis. All right. That's just what we're calling him. And so he is just kind of loving all of this. He's living for it. And basically at this point, it is the coven versus Louis, because the coven is tired too. Okay. At this meeting, everybody's airing out their grievances. Everyone's at odds because of course it's months later and Louis is still alive when Armand was supposed to take care of business. Okay. And so while they're going through, Santi is loving all of this tomfoolery. He's loving the mutinous vibes. It's giving him everything he needs. They ask the question to Armand, is Louis your partner? They answer in unison, honey, but with wrong answers. Armand says yes. Louis says no. All the while, honey, the Lestat hallucination right there, cheesing. Anyway, Daniel wants to know, Louis, are you schizophrenic? Because at this point, the way that Lestat is taking up space in your mind and in your heart and in your reality, it's not normal. And what I observed from this moment was that even in a hallucination, honey, Armand is jealous. Armand is also a liar, because when Daniel asked him, did you feel Lestat in the room? he was like, no, listen, Armand, we know you all inside of Louis's head. Okay. Okay, bro. Like, we know. And Louis basically talks about, while I was severing one bond, meaning Lestat, getting, I guess, his closure to that, he was forming another with Armand. And so now that we're back in present day and Daniel's asking them more questions, he brings up the theater fire, honey, because it pops up on his screen. And I'm thinking the Talamesca's remoting in again. You know what I mean? But y'all correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And basically, he's asking them, so did everyone but you two survive the fire? And Armand is like, there's no documentation of a fire in my archive that we gave you access to. And Louis said, what fire? He don't remember a fire. All the while, honey, Armand is projecting inside of Daniel's mind, talking about a girl who wanted to bang him, I guess. And Daniel said, I'll only do it if you put a paper bag over your head. I was like, of all the things to bring up in his mind, Armand, aside from your picture, do we need to know all this information? And I guess we do. But immediately the subject changes and Daniel's like, well, Claudia was still journaling. So is she breaking the third law? Isn't that the third law? Don't write the history of vampires. Then we flash back and Claudia is still journaling. And this time, honey, Santi finds her. He catches her in the act. And she's like, it's not really a journal. It's just my random thoughts. And he gives her a warning. He's like, little sis, if anybody else finds you doing that, they are going to report it. And your illustrious Armand does not play about these rules. Okay, because there are several makers up in here. And he gives her this story about how Armand unalived someone's maker for making, giving the dark gift to someone else. And I'm like, child, Santi is bitter about his maker too. And he's just looking for a reason to get Armand out of there. And I think Louis and Claudia are just the perfect fit for that. You know what I mean? To show that my terror doesn't have real control, that he's slacking in his ancient age. And Armand has a grave attachment to the laws. Okay. And he's basically trying to endear himself to Claudia, but we know this is nothing positive. It's nothing for her good. It's all about his ulterior motive and his plan. And so we have to go to dinner now. It's a dinner night with the entire company. And baby, Santiago is sick of Louis. Do you hear me? He's sick of them. They're at the dinner and he can't even control himself, honey. He done took Louis' whole voice and is mocking him. Next thing I know, Louis up, got Santi's tongue in his hand, and Armand had to stop time. And little Santi's girlfriend talking about Louis got too much coming from his mouthful cavity. Y'all, I about fell out at that dinner table with them. But Louis, before he was so rudely interrupted, is just so excited about life. And he and Claudia, he's sharing all of his journeys with the artists and, how he's finding his place as a photographer. And, there's musicians and other artists, and he's just living his best life. And again, everyone's hating because he's not committing to this coven. He's just not going to do it. And so then we go forward and we see Louis showing his work, his photographs to who I'm assuming is a patron of the arts who buys photos, who has a great eye, maybe has a gallery. And the guy is like, you have a great eye, but maybe not, the best perspective when you're shooting the shot. Okay. And shows him Gordon Parks' work. And honey, Louis is pissed off, and he said he's talking to Lestat in the hallucination later. And he's like, yeah, and he showed me Gordon Parks' work. I'm going to put some of Gordon Parks' pictures here. You'll know, amazing, a genius, a breathtaking work. And so, I mean, that's just a high standard to put yourself up against Louis. I hate he gave up his dream all because of that critique, because baby, not many could be Gordon Parks. Do you hear me? That I'm just going to sit that right there. And so as Daniel, we're in present day, he's going through all of the photographs, and again, Louis says this wasn't for a history. It's just for recollection. You know what I mean? For posterity. And so he's seeing all of these pictures. And as he's going through the photographs, Louis is like, this isn't mine. This is another famous photographer. This isn't mine. And he looks at Armand like, bruh, why did you put other people's work in there? And again, the facade is cracking. Louis is getting closer to the truth, getting closer to getting out of this mirage, right? That he's been seeing for all these years. It's ridiculous at this point. I need him. I need him to come on. And so Armand is like, Louis, come on, let's go for a walk. And so they basically have a date night in the museum. But honey, this is when we get the full tea on Armand, aka Arun, aka Amadeo. Okay. We find out that he was created by Marius, right? His parents sold him into slavery to a brothel where he was abused for many years. Later, he was adopted by Marius, who would do whatever he wanted to do with them, and then apparently give him over to his friends too. So we find out the extent of Armand's history, and it is tragic. I will say that. And it explains a lot about his character present day. Meanwhile, Claudia is at the dressmaker, honey, and finding out the story because the people done painted a swatch, okay? And basically we find out she wasn't really a Nazi she was dealing with, honey. She said, I just basically I just wanted a man, and he was my man, my man, my man. And so, again, I don't like the dressmaker. I see maybe Claudia sees some of herself in her. And of course, we know that Claudia wants and needs a companion. Everyone else has a companion but her. And so, I get it. And Armand and Claudia, honey. He finds her in the dress shop talking to the dressmaker, and Armand is not having it. When I tell you he choked her up and basically says, look, I know what you did to Lestat. I know it all. And if you want to stay alive, you'll do what I say. You'll get back to that theater, get back on that stage, and do what I told you to do. Now, again, Louis said she had nothing to do with it, but we knew already that Armand knew that Claudia was the culprit in terms of unaliving Lestat. And now Claudia knows Armand knows. But what we didn't expect is that Santi was lurking, okay, and comes right up, knowing now the full truth. What's going to be the result of that, honey? Armand chokes him up too. And it's like, you can get it too, Santi. This is not the vibes. Not the vibes. And so now again, the company, the coven is up in arms. We already know though, and again, they say that Armand is a manipulative gremlin with poor decision-making skills, and I fell out. Okay. And so basically Claudia rushes home because she's mad at Louis, and she's like, he threatened me. And Louis, that doesn't sound like him. Again, the battered man syndrome. It doesn't sound, he wouldn't do that. Yeah, he would. Armand would unalive Claudia in a heartbeat. And so Claudia's like, you chose another one over me again. Love makes you stupid, Louis. You left me. And that's what Louis says. You left me, Claudia. You left me for the coven. And go sit in your choice, sister, as she storms out. And I'm like, Louis, Claudia. But she did not lie. When it comes down to it, Louis is going to pick the D of the day, okay, over Claudia every single time. That's what's going to happen. So while all that's going, Lestat is there in his mind, of course, and is like, look at our child, our wilderness. That is our daughter, honey. And he says, shall we hunt? And so they go and they sit. And as soon as they leave, honey, Santiago's in the apartment that Louis shares with Claudia. And I'm like, Lord have mercy, going through everything. And of course, she keeps a journal for everything. He done found the journal. So we know what's going to result in that. But as they go out on this walk, Lestat and Louis, I think it was really Louis really finally severing that bond and getting Lestat out of his mind. They talk and, he says, yeah, I'm going to leave Armand. I'm going to do this. Knowing dang on well he ain't going to leave Armand. And finally, we see Lestat dissolve. And it was like, okay, bye. But it was as toxic as their relationship is and as awful as Lestat is. I like the idea that you see everything with Lestat. There's no hidden surprises with him. Like, we know Lestat is crazy, right? He wears it on his sleeve. We know exactly who he is. We know how unhinged he is. With Armand, he's just a sneak. He's a snake all of the above. So Armand says, you know, the mutiny is starting. Santiago wants my job. And Louis is basically saying, give it to him. You know what I mean? Or pretend to. Make him think he's the heir apparent. You know, let him know that he can have the company. And then when things go awry because he's in over his head, everyone will come running back to you. And Louis lets him know, you know, before in this life and in the other, I used to run things and I was pretty good at it. So maybe Louis is coming out of his housewife era and wants to do it. But we know Santiago has his eyes on power. And finally, at the end of Armand and Louis' conversation, Armand is basically like, okay, daddy. And Santi is already my tear. Let the other coven members tell it. So now present day, Armand and Louis are fighting, honey, about them pictures that he planted. And Daniel's digging and he's looking up all of the archives of the old Malloy tapes from the original interview, honey. And we find out that things got heated with a boy, and not the boy you think, baby. Louis and Daniel apparently were hot and heavy, and Armand was jealous. I'm ready for the next episode. Drop it in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of this episode. There was a lot to unpack. Again, it wasn't my favorite because it just didn't have all of the action, but this was such a great episode in laying groundwork and giving us background. Again, can't wait till next week. Let me know what you thought of the video in the comment section or the episode in the comment section. And I will see you guys Tuesday night for the live. Don't forget, we were going live at 7:05 Eastern Standard Time this Tuesday night. Yeah, so be there or be square, and I will see y'all in the next video.